Hello! Before we start, I'd like to introduce the video and the topic of this historical fiction project. This is about the Holocaust, specifically about how Jewish people were treated. This project is for 7th period IDS. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the video and the research put in it. The Holocaust, a gruesome time during World War II where Jewish people, specifically German Jews, were being taken into concentration camps. Striped pajamas, gas chambers, and beatings. But all before this, rights were being taken away. This all started on January 30th, 1933. Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor, or President, of Germany, which then had a Jewish population of 566,000. Little did everyone know, this event would haunt the lives of many for times to come. The first step into the Jewish hate was labeled in the Holocaust timeline from the History Place, July 14th, 1933. Nazi Party is declared the only legal party in Germany. Also, Nazis passed law to strip Jewish immigrants from Poland of their German citizenship. Before that, no acts were made against Jewish people. Throughout 1933 to 1937, more and more laws were put in place to specifically ban Jewish people from more things. Nazis prohibited Jewish people from owning land, Jewish people are not allowed national health care, Jewish people cannot serve in the military, and much more. How horrid these laws were is only just the beginning. Concentration camps were created when Hitler gained leadership. The description of series number 2 of the concentration camp from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum lists Nazi officials established in the first concentration camp, Dachau, on March 22, 1933, political prisoners. It was later used as a model for an expanded and centralized concentration camp system managed by the SS. What distinguishes a concentration camp from a prison in the modern sense is that it functions outside of a judicial system. The prisoners are not indicted or convicted of any crime by judicial process. The major purpose of the earliest concentration camp during the 1930s was to imprison and intimidate the leaders of political, social, and cultural movements the Nazis perceived to be a threat to the survival of the regime. These camps were not originated for Jewish prisoners, but they were the very start of something that would kill millions of Jewish people that were living in and out of Germany. And series number 3 of the concentration camps from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum tells when the camps first started being used for, quote, inferior races. As Germany conquered much of Europe in the years 1939 to 1941, the SS established a number of new concentration camps to incarcerate increased numbers of political prisoners, resistance groups, and groups deemed racially inferior, such as Jews and Roma, or Gypsies. The camps weren't being used for the prisoners, they were now being used for the people that the Nazi Party deemed inferior to their race. The Nazi Party wanted everyone to be blonde-haired and blue eyes. The irony to this is that Hitler himself had brown hair and brown eyes. When the U.S. joined the war, there was more need for laborers. An excerpt from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum includes this. Facing growing labor shortages and the ongoing need to produce armaments, machinery, airplanes, and ships to replace German losses, the SS established more SS-owned firms. It also signed contracts with state and private firms to produce goods and provide labor for the German armaments and related industries. The incarceration of increasing numbers of people in the concentration camps assured the quantity of labor supply, even as the brutality of life inside the camps depleted the number of available laborers. The SS used gas chambers and other means to, quote, weed out prisoners who were not able to work. The gas chambers were used to make sure everyone in the concentration camps could work and work and work to exhaustion. From the boy in the striped pajamas, the main character's friend, Shmuel, was seen sometimes with bruises everywhere on his body, and his frame was thin and pale white. In another part of the book, when Shmuel is at the main character, Bruno's house, Bruno convinces him to eat some chicken. A Nazi general comes into the kitchen and ridicules Shmuel for stealing when he was supposed to be working, and Bruno never had the heart to say he gave it to Shmuel. Shmuel went through beatings and ridiculings just for being Jewish, and he was also called derogatory terms. At the end of The Boy in Striped Pajamas, Bruno dresses up as a Jewish person with extra pajamas and a hat. He joined Shmuel in an investigation to find where Shmuel's dad went, but before they could investigate, they were thrown into a group of people and were told to march. Bruno and Shmuel were in the middle, huddled together. All they did was march and march and march with the group, not knowing where they were going. Eventually, they came into a building where they were shoved in and had to stay shoulder to shoulder. Shmuel and Bruno held hands as the metal door shut tight, and they didn't understand what was going to happen to them until it was too late. Bruno's father, a Nazi general at the camp, was looking around for his missing son, but all he could find were his coat and his boots laid on the ground. His father had no idea of what actually happened, but sadly, Bruno had been taken into a gas chamber with no knowing of what it actually was. He died with all the other prisoners of the camp, and his father didn't know what he thought was killing the less valuable people killed his own son. The time back in World War II was not a pleasant time, but learning about everything that happened back in history lets us know that we are lucky to not have gone through that, but also not to repeat history. The sad part is that history is repeating. There are many genocides going on right at this moment, and so many people are getting tortured and beat and killed for things they cannot control, things that they should have rights for, but they don't. History does and always will repeat itself, but learning about the faults and horrors of history can help. This was the story of World War II and the treatment of Jewish people in history. I hope you enjoyed the video.